Warfare never stands still, and weapons technology needs to keep moving to stay ahead.
Good to go, let's move! Go, go! Go windows, go windows!
These American soldiers are equipped with the latest, most advanced firearms, vital for their survival.
Move it!
They're the product of an evolutionary struggle that's taken place over millennia.
Check the door, check the door! There we go! Go back!
As designers use evolving technology to produce ever deadlier weapons.
One down!
Military history is one area where technology plays an absolutely critical role.
Got you covered.
Designers are always looking for new answers to the question, what makes the ultimate weapon?
There are 4 key factors: range, accuracy, strength, and rate of fire. And what we see through history is weapon designers, be it bows, be it crossbows, be it firearms, be it machine guns, are all playing around with those 4 factors.
House fire, clear. Fire, just move. Get ready to move out.
Over thousands of years, there have been many innovations in weaponry, but only a few have transformed ground warfare. Some of those can be traced back to the earliest military empires. Macedonia in 326 BC, the peak of one warlike leader's power. Alexander the Great wasn't the first empire builder the world had seen. But it's the battle-hungry Macedonian king who conquers most of the classical world. He does it by exploiting the most advanced metals of his time, bronze and iron. The original ideas came from Alexander's neighbors, the Greeks. In the first millennium BC, the Greeks used bronze to make highly effective defensive armor, like breastplates and helmets, and iron to give their offensive weapons a deadlier thrust. These weapons, in conjunction with the tactics they used, gave the Greeks their fighting edge. They build a formidable military machine. It marks the true beginning of organized Western warfare. They called it the phalanx. And the basic principles of its success can be seen on rugby pitches around the world.
Engage!
The phalanx relies on teamwork and organization. It moves as a controlled, cohesive body. The soldiers fight in regimented blocks, shoulder to shoulder.
But they all felt they were part of a group, and they liked to fight as an organized unit, rather like a rugby scrum is today. All for one and one for all.
The unit is not only cohesive, it's bristling with armor and weapons.
I've got to remember, I would be one of 10,000 men, similarly equipped like this, like a giant armadillo. So basically, this is a combination of defending myself with the shield from any missiles or thrusts coming, but also offensively going forward and stabbing in the face, in the stomach, straight into the unprotected groin there, and then another one to finish him off, and then ready for the next one.
By the time of Alexander's empire, the armaments used by the phalanx grow even more deadly. The spears evolve into a 6-meter-long killing weapon they call the sarissa, more than 3 times the height of the average soldier. The sarissa gives Alexander's men new reach. The first 5 ranks can now impale the enemy. This more efficient use of the weapon turns the phalanx into a supreme offensive machine.
For its period, the phalanx was the most successful fighting unit in the world. Nothing could stand against it.
Okay.
But the phalanx has an Achilles heel.
Okay.
197 BC in Greece, the Battle of Cynocephali. The classical world's coming superpower, Rome, challenges the established military supremacy of the phalanx. It is a bloody confrontation.
When the Macedonian phalanx met the Romans, they were aghast, they were shocked. They'd never seen wounds like that.
The Romans managed to completely hack people to pieces. Heads lying around, spleens split open, bodies hacked in half. Basically, it was a massive butcher's shop.
Whilst all other armies have fallen before the phalanx, the Romans adapt their battlefield tactics to exploit its weaknesses. Those weaknesses can be seen back at the rugby field. The phalanx works well going forward on flat plains, where it's rigid structures an asset. But the phalanx can't turn easily. And at Cynocephali, the Romans use their knowledge of tactics to exploit this, attacking from the rear and the flank. And the phalanx has another weakness. On uneven terrain, its structure is liable to break up. That day, the phalanx is cut to pieces, and a shockwave runs through the eastern Mediterranean. But it isn't just Roman tactics that forces this defeat. Victory is achieved with an exceptional weapon, which the Romans will use to enforce their power for 400 years, the gladius. And it's made with a revolutionary new material, steel. Hard steel's produced when iron absorbs carbon from a carbon-rich material like charcoal fuel. Roman smiths create the gladius by welding together two strips of iron with a strip of steel between them. The blade is forged at around 1,000 degrees centigrade. Its steel core becomes the weapon's cutting edge, made razor-sharp on a grindstone. The shortness of the gladius blade allows the Romans to get around the long sarissas and into their enemies' faces.
The primary method of attack was to thrust low and upwards, aiming for the stomach. The stomach and this central soft, squidgy area here, that is the place to kill people. Because it has a very, very good cutting edge as well, down both sides, hardened steel, if you need to, if you're suddenly surrounded, for example, and you need to slash out, it's very, very useful for that. Doesn't really matter where you slash, every bit will count. The odd leg here, the odd arm there. This was the weapon that effectively conquered all known comers. This is it.
A simple but unique stabbing blade, which allows them to build an empire. For the modern soldier, warfare has moved on from the face-to-face combat that was so effective for the Romans to long-range firearms which kill from 500 meters. The ability to strike from great distance is now taken for granted. It's been achieved through a number of inspired technological breakthroughs. And one was the bow, which used great power to propel an archer's arrow an immense distance. 1415, Agincourt, northern France. A key battle in the war between the French and English, which has lasted for 3 generations. A menacing army of around 20,000 French, many on horseback, fighting on home soil, confident of success. Facing them, King Henry V of England, with a force 1/3 the size, on foot, but equipped with something called the longbow.
Archers, stretch! Stretch!
From around 220 meters, the archers unleash a barrage of arrows. The French cavalry charge, but can't break through. The French come again, this time on foot, but again the English archers fill the sky with arrows. In the narrow, boggy field of Agincourt, the French attack is blunted. And face to face, against the odds, the English win the day. How King Henry and his English underdogs snatched victory at Agincourt is still a matter of conjecture. Mark Stretton thinks he knows the reason why. He's written about the bow and has been shooting one since he was 6. Stretton believes victory was the result of the longbow's ability to strike the enemy at a distance. By firing at plate armor from 45 meters, Mark demonstrates the ferocity of this medieval powerhouse. It's believed that from 220 meters, arrows wouldn't have pierced armor, but Stretton's convinced the longbow could still have immobilized the French cavalry.
If a knight got hit with more than one arrow at once, the impact alone could knock him clean off the back of the horse.
It's the arrow's weight that makes the difference, 1/10 of a kilogram.
If we take a 7-pound sledgehammer and swing it at 32 feet a second, it has the same impact as this arrow travelling at 150 feet a second, which is more or less 100 miles an hour.
But in order to turn this into a battle-winning weapon, the English need something else. Specialists, man and bow melded into a unique fighting machine. The English archer is strong, but also trained to achieve the precise angle that delivers long-range, accurate fire.
I know that feels too low, that feels too high, but just there feels comfortable. That is right.
To achieve this fighting efficiency, there is a high price to pay.
For a longbowman to have been good, that necessitated training and necessitated years and years of training.
At Agincourt, these specialist soldiers produce a formidable barrage, triggering the French slide to defeat. The longbow has many of the qualities of the ultimate warrior weapon: accuracy, range, rate of fire. And these characteristics help determine the way medieval commanders fight their battles. But the future will be different. An explosive new technology will recast how generals fight wars, make the specialist archers redundant, and the battlefield far more dangerous for the soldier. Its origins were in China, around 600 years earlier. The story has it, the emperor's alchemists were looking for the elixir of life when they stumbled across the pathway to death.
Gunpowder transformed the world of warfare.
Gunpowder's explosive power comes from a potent mixture. First, sulfur to increase speed of combustion. Then charcoal to provide fuel. And finally, saltpeter to create oxygen. The knowledge of how gunpowder was made migrated to Europe from the east. But the evolution of the firearm was a slow process. The first heavy infantry weapon to be used in large numbers is the matchlock musket, adopted by armies around 1500.
This is a matchlock. It gets its name from the ignition system, which starts by having a piece of match or cord. This is one of the drawbacks that you would have if you're in a combat situation. Presto. Now we have fire.
The matchlock can now be loaded with powder and ball. Next, gunpowder is added to the pan to prime the weapon for firing. Cheap to make, the matchlock is adopted from Western Europe to Japan. The firearm changes the balance between offense and defense. For 2,000 years, new weapons have been matched by better protective armor. But the musket ball overwhelms the powers of armor and drives it from the theater of war.
The period when armour disappeared from the European battlefield was one where armourers had hit a brick wall. They could make bulletproof armour, but it was too heavy for anyone to wear.
The matchlock musket transforms warfare. But it has flaws. Because it relies on a lighted match cord, the ignition system is dangerous and unreliable. The arrival of a new generation of musket will cure these firing problems. It will become the universal soldier's weapon. (1815). Europe's greatest armies clash near a Belgian village called Waterloo. It's one of the bloodiest battles fought by Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte with muskets and artillery. In the choking smoke of battle, many soldiers can't see much beyond the end of their own weapon. In a single day, 47,000 men are either killed or wounded. And one of the reasons for these horrific numbers is the killing potential of the soldier's firearm. Most soldiers on that day are using a weapon called the flintlock musket, which is deadly. And one reason it's so lethal is a highly reliable ignition system. When the trigger's pulled, the flint strikes the metal frizzen or strike plate, producing sparks which detonate the powder charge in the pan below. This flame ignites the main powder charge, launching the musket ball down the barrel. The effect of musket technology is to cheapen the life of the ordinary soldier because he's easier to replace. A musketeer can be trained to stand firm and fire in a matter of months, compared to years for the highly skilled longbow archer.
War became more of a mass production enterprise in which the soldier was a small cog in a very large wheel.
In a typical exchange of musket fire, commanders push their troops up close to the enemy in densely packed lines. It's the soldier who pays the price.
There's a lot of fire and the overwhelming noise from all the guns discharging, artillery firing, the moans of people who have been wounded. All of this would contribute to a sense of confusion.
And the scary part for you as the soldier is you have to stand right out in the open and attention with your enemy facing you maybe 50 yards away and all those muskets pointed at you. It had been absolutely horrifying.
But the commanders don't sacrifice their men out of malice. Musket tactics are determined by the weapon, which was accurate to only 50 meters. It's this reality which makes the generals fight at such close quarters. What was needed was a gun which would allow soldiers to engage the enemy from further away. This is the M107 long-range sniper rifle, the cutting edge of high-powered rifle technology. A gun that's capable of killing from a distance of 2,000 meters. Today, in military operations, this kind of pinpoint accuracy is the norm. We've arrived at this sniper's rifle via a chain of events which started in America's Revolutionary War. George Washington sees the military potential of a weapon which for nearly 3 centuries has been used mainly for hunting.
These rifles were incredibly effective at 100 to 200 yards, and Washington knew this in the American Revolution.
As American rebels clash with British professional soldiers, Washington recruits woodsmen with their accurate hunting rifles and uses them as prototype snipers.
It was almost like a terror weapon. It was good at hitting individuals.
That's the beginning of a sniper's culture, where you start to pick out a target of high value. And he stalks that individual and shoots him.
the rifle is so accurate because of a unique feature, which is best illustrated with the spiral pass, a technique used by American football players. The quarterback rolls the football between fingers and thumb as he throws it, causing the ball to spin in midair. One of the basic principles of physics is that a spinning object resists any change of direction, and the net result is greater range and, crucially, accuracy. It works for the football quarterback, and it works in ballistics. If we compare the barrel of a rifle with a musket, we see that the musket is smooth on the inside, hence the name smooth bore. But a rifle barrel is scored with spiral grooves. It's these grooves which make the bullet spin as it leaves the barrel. As with the football, the spin serves to stabilize the projectile. The spinning bullet is balanced like a flying gyroscope. But before the rifle can take its place as a universal battlefield weapon, technology has to solve another problem. The rifle is very slow to load because of the tight fit of the ball in the grooved barrel. Yet when the breakthrough finally comes in the 1840s, it isn't an advance in barrel design. It's a new ammunition. The Minié ball, or bullet, named after its French inventor Claude-Étienne Minié, is simple and deadly. 4 grease-filled grooves made it easy to load, but the bullet's genius is in its hollow base. On ignition, the hollow base expands, gripping the rifling grooves inside the barrel, making the bullet spin. Once the Minié bullet joins the rifled barrel, it becomes the rifle musket, ready for the battlefield. 1862, the Battle of Antietam in America's Civil War. 87,000 Union troops confront 40,000 Confederates. And for one of the first times in history, both fighting armies are equipped with a new generation of rifle muskets. The consequences will be terrible.
Here we have 2 weapons that were used during the American Civil War. This is a smoothbore musket firing a round ball. This is a rifled musket firing a conical Minié bullet.
Old and new technologies compete head-to-head in an accuracy test, 6 shots apiece at 70 meters. First, the smoothbore musket. Next up, the rifle and Minié bullet.
Okay, smoothbore, 69 caliber, may have broken both arms, but there's only 2 hits out of 6 shots. We're out past the effective range of this of a guy hitting who he's aiming at. And that creates problems when you're trying to kill people.
Now the rifle.
First 3 shots, this guy would lose his arm. Up here, probably his collarbone. This is probably close to a gut shot up on the hip. You've reduced the fighters by 6 men. Here you've reduced them by 2 men.
So all 6 shots in the target. At 70 meters, the rifle is 3 times more effective than the musket.
So you can load this weapon almost as quickly as a smoothbore musket, but it fires very accurately. And that makes weapons incredibly deadly.
Not only are the new weapons more deadly, they arrive at a time when they can be mass-produced. In the decades leading up to the Civil War, at armories like Harper's Ferry, Virginia, a revolution has taken place, driving weapons production forward with the power of industrialization. Individual craftsmen are replaced by machines. Lathes carve rifle stocks. Machine tools copy gun barrels. And the outcome is standardization, identical firearms with interchangeable parts. And as the country surges towards the bloody reckoning of the Civil War, the repeater rifle uses a metal cartridge to combine powder and bullet with a magazine. This produces an accelerated rate of fire, one shot every 3 seconds, which will also leave its mark in the war. At the Battle of Antietam, one tiny field changes hands 15 times in firefights that kill around 2,000 men. By the end of the day, there are 23,000 casualties, the single bloodiest day in American military history. And while it isn't the only factor, the accuracy of the new rifle musket plays its part. And this weapon goes on killing, even after the battle was over. Many of the victims injured by rifle fire will later die of agonizing infection. Today, modern ballistics tests can reveal one reason why. George Wunderlich, Executive Director of the National Museum of Civil War Medicine, is also a firearms expert. He'll shoot both weapons into ballistic gelatine blocks, which react like human tissue.
We're going to see if this will help tell us what were the doctors actually seeing in the wounds they were treating during the course of the war.
First, the smooth-bore musket and ball. Next up is the rifle and Minié bullet.
Let's take a look at our test results. As we can see, the round ball has lodged in our ballistic gel. When we go over here, this is our newer technology. This is the mini bullet, the conical bullet that came out of our rifle. And what we see here is that the velocity has allowed the bullet to be carried completely out of the block. No bullet has been trapped.
So the musket ball has cut a straight wound, resulting in little destruction of soft tissue, which would probably heal relatively quickly. But the higher velocity rifle bullet has pushed tissue aside, creating a trail of disruption and a complex and possibly deadly wound. In many cases, the attending surgeon simply amputated the limb rather than risk a fatal secondary infection. Battlefield commanders also play a part in the bloodbath of the Civil War. They are slow to adapt to the new military landscape.
Well, the technology has changed, the tactics really haven't changed. Marching right out in the open, shoulder to shoulder, like they would have done in the days of Napoleon. Even in Napoleon's time, this was dicey. In the age of rifled muskets, this was suicide.
When a new technology appears and you're confronted with it, you rely on the old ways. And what it ends up becoming is a slaughter.
Finally, the defense responds to the power of the new offensive weapons. Both armies begin to dig trenches to take shelter. Trenches which foreshadow the events of World War I. As soldiers return to their fields and towns, the industrial processes which have revolutionized weapons production can now be applied to a new consumer market, from sewing machines to locomotives.
Not just firearms, but all kinds of different products begin to copy that idea of making interchangeable parts. We're not quite at Ford's assembly line, but we're on the way there.
There's always some, we can call it a rake-off, some benefit to society. It's perhaps ironic, though, that we always seem to feel we need to start by killing people. That's the first major aim that drives us, and then we are willing to apply this to more peaceful circumstances.
Today's soldiers use weapons that have little in common with rifle muskets. This M2 50 caliber roof-mounted machine gun is capable of firing around 500 rounds per minute. The machine gun is now one of the most destructive forces in ground war's arsenal. But surprisingly, the roots of this technology go back to the time of the Civil War. By the 1850s, designers have improved the accuracy and range of the ordinary soldier's firearm. Now they turn their attention to its rate of fire, and industrialization gives them the tools for the job. American doctor Richard J. Gatling comes up with a design for the world's first really successful machine gun. Where a Civil War rifle musket fired roughly 3 rounds per minute, the Gatling gun increased that rate of fire 200-fold to 600 rounds per minute. Gatling's machine gun is an imperfect prototype. Bulky as a small artillery piece, it has to be hauled by horses around the battlefield. But the idea of a rapid-fire weapon proves seductive. A new inventor is needed to develop the concept. Nothing in Hiram Maxim's background gives a clue as to what his legacy might be. Born in Maine, USA, the son of a mechanic, his early inventions are innocuous. A hair-curling iron, various coffee substitutes. But in the 1880s, Maxim leaves America for Europe. It's said he was told if he wished to make his fortune, he should invent something that allowed Europeans to kill each other more easily. Maxim obliges and creates one of World War I's most infamous weapons, the Maxim gun. The great technological breakthrough is that it doesn't rely on a crank handle. It's self-powered. The gun's recoil forces back the firing block. In one motion, this draws a new bullet from the belt and a spent bullet from the firing chamber, pushes the new bullet into the firing chamber, and ejects the spent cartridge. And it does all this 600 times a minute. Which is why it needs a water-filled jacket to keep the barrel cool. The Great War of 1914 is looming, and new customers stand in line to purchase the weapon, including Germany. The Maxim gun is truly an international product, and its impact on World War I's front line is of raw killing power. The Battle of the Somme on Europe's Western Front. At 7:30 a.m. on July the 1st, 1916, the first Allied soldiers go over the top. The infantry are ordered to cross no man's land and assault the German trenches. They've been led to believe the German defenses have been destroyed by artillery. But that isn't the case. It's a massacre.
The battalions that attacked at the Somme basically stood up and walked into German fire with full packs on their backs. The German machine gunners are so horrified at this that they're waving at British soldiers to go back. And then when they realize they're not going back, they gun them down.
One regiment at the Somme loses an unimaginable 92% of its men. The Maxim's effect is the complete opposite of the sniper's rifle. This is volume, not accuracy.
You see where the rounds are hitting or impacting out there. You don't even have to aim. If you have a line of troops coming towards you, you merely keep shooting where you see those fellows falling, and you keep shooting into them.
The gunners also learn to increase their kill rate by a tactic called interlocking fire. Seen from above, Maxim gunners sweep the battlefield from side to side. Where their zones of fire cross, soldiers face double the numbers of incoming bullets. The combination of the machine gun with trenches, artillery, and barbed wire define the course of the Great War. A defensive stalemate where an individual soldier's death is a statistic. The machine gun's deadly success opens the door for a new generation of portable automatic weapons. The decades leading up to World War II see the development of the submachine gun. The Thompson or Tommy gun is used in gangster wars in the 20s and then by Allied troops at war. But the long-term future will belong to a more adaptable weapon for the universal soldier. That weapon is the assault rifle. Today, it's the standard firearm of virtually every soldier and militiaman in the world. And it's versatile, capable of both single shot and bursts of fire.
Let's go. Oh my God, negative contact.
The US Army's current weapon, the M4, is highly advanced. But the stories of two earlier assault rifles, the AK-47 and the M16, indicate that a lower-tech weapon can in some cases be highly effective.
The AK-47, or automatic Kalashnikov of the year 1947, has really been, in many ways, one of the most important firearms in history.
Designed and built in the Soviet Union, its inventor, Mikhail Kalashnikov, was a tank commander in World War II. His assault rifle was adopted by the Russian army in 1949, for which he received the Stalin Prize First Class. The AK-47 is the most widely used military weapon in the world today. Up to 100 million are thought to have been sold. It's the weapon of armies, militias, freedom fighters, and terrorists. Strip an AK down, and it's easy to see why.
First of all, it's a very simple mechanism. We have a dust cover, a mainspring, a bolt carrier, and inside the bolt carrier, a bolt. We don't have a lot of moving parts, but what we do have is a certain looseness. You can hear that rattle. That rattle means that the parts have been given a certain amount of play. That play allows this weapon to function even though there may be dirt or filth from the firing of the weapon encrusted inside these grooves. That play means a high degree of reliability.
The weapon's simplicity also means anyone can learn to use an AK.
It's the guerrilla weapon of choice everywhere because it is the great equalizer with people whose societies are not as technologically inclined, and you see them everywhere.
The AK-47's been associated with some improbable wars. One is Vietnam, where in the 1960s and 70s, the US is pitted against a virtual peasant army. Of course, the AK-47 doesn't win the war for the North Vietnamese, but it comes to symbolize the differences between the two combatants. The American Army is equipped with an early version of the high-tech M16 rifle, America's primary infantry weapon from 1967, which has great accuracy and range. Their enemy, the North Vietnamese and Viet Cong, use the lower-tech AK-47.
What we basically have is a pickup truck and a Lamborghini. The AK-47 was meant to be very durable, very rugged, very simple and inexpensive to manufacture. The M16 was supposed to be lightweight, also very accurate.
But in the early years of the war, the M16 has a tendency to jam in damp and dirty jungle conditions. The Soviet Union's unsophisticated technology proves better suited.
We see stories from Vietnam that say that they were dug out of ditches or found in rivers, even buried, and then shot with no problem. It seems that dirt simply didn't affect this weapon. Well, now let's see if this will actually fire.
It was incredibly reliable, incredibly insensitive to abuse, and on a number of occasions, Marine units would re-equip themselves with captured AK-47s simply to take advantage of the reliability.
The assault rifle today has reached the pinnacle of what a soldier requires of a personal firearm. Offensive weapons, guns, are getting more accurate and more destructive. The soldier is more lethal than ever, but he's also more vulnerable to the enemy's guns. So protection is essential. And today, an ancient defensive idea has re-established itself on the battlefield because technology has advanced enough to make it effective once more. In 1965, chemist Stephanie Kwolek is working for DuPont in New York State. Her aim is to discover a material to make car tires lighter. But she stumbles across a new synthetic fiber 5 times stronger than steel. DuPont names this miraculous new material Kevlar. Its military potential later becomes clear as the raw material for body armor.
Well, here's the entry hole. Let's see what damage it's done. Hasn't gone through. I can feel it down at the bottom here.
Kevlar's strength is in its fibers, which create the effect of a spider's web. They absorb and dispense the energy of the bullet, greatly increasing the soldier's chance of survival. The soft ballistic jacket keeps out a pistol round, but on the battlefield, a soldier needs protection from high-velocity rounds. Troops use these hard ceramic plates, made like Kevlar from a synthetic substance, and one of the hardest known materials in the world. From a distance, the AK bullet appears to have gone right through the ceramic plate.
You can see it's fragmented. There's lots of small pieces here. If I turn the plate over, and see nothing has come through this side.
The combination of Kevlar with ceramic plate has impressive stopping power. Thick steel would be just as effective, but to get the same level of protection, you'd need steel 12 millimeters thick. That weighs an impractical 18 kilograms, while the Kevlar jacket and ceramic plate weighs in at just 11 kilograms. So light modern body armor is now standard issue and a critical component of a soldier's fighting kit. In ground war, today's warrior is equipped with battle-winning technology. His assault rifle to engage the enemy and advanced body armor to defend him from attack. But other less high-profile technologies have had just as big an impact. 1991, Operation Desert Storm. Coalition forces invade Iraq. For the first time in history, an army uses night vision devices on a vast scale and at every level, from tanks all the way down to the individual soldier. This is a technology that allows the warrior to fully exploit the night. It's a step change in ground warfare. The American soldier can now fight 24/7 using night goggles. This is how the technology works. The goggles absorb minute levels of ambient light from sources such as stars and multiply it. The soldier is able to see images through the lens situated in front of his eyes. And he can use his goggles while looking down a rifle sight at an enemy. It's a similar but superior technology to the night scope used by snipers with police department special response teams.
Lights!
With our own night vision camera, we can follow the action. Through his goggles, this green image is what the soldier sees. But without goggles, this is what his enemy sees.
Night vision equipment has fundamentally changed the nature of war. It has changed the United States Armed Forces from a force that prefers to fight by day to one that prefers to fight by night.
Emerging technologies may prove even more revolutionary, with the goal of one day making the warrior himself obsolete. Half a man's body weight has always been the most the soldier can carry into battle. But now the exoskeleton is under development for the US Army. It's a wearable robot which amplifies the soldier's strength, enabling him to carry 90 kilograms without tiring. The exoskeleton frees the modern infantrymen from a limitation that has stood since the beginnings of warfare. But perhaps technology's ultimate goal will be to completely replace the warrior on the battlefield.
Now you have devices being developed that could go into a building, into an enclosed area, be armed, and be able to take on an enemy combatant without exposing the operator.
The armed, remotely controlled robot opens the door to a more sinister future. A battlefield with the hallmark of science fiction. The Pentagon has determined that by 2015, a full 30% of the US Army's fighting capacity on the ground will be delivered by robots.
In a future where you have our robots fighting their robots, I think that's entirely possible. I think you're going to begin to see that in ground war. I think it's inevitable as that technology improves.
Inevitable, but also controversial.
The idea of an autonomous robot, an autonomous armed robot, being able to move about the battlefield and make its own decisions, that's something a lot of people are leaning away from. They don't want to see it come. There has to be a human in the circuit. There has to be a man who says, this is when you pull the trigger and this is when you don't.
These Marines, training at Fort Irwin, California, are equipped with the latest weaponry technology can provide. Today, they're finding out what awaits them when they're deployed. On today's battlefields, soldiers have to be ready to face war at any level, at any time. Vicious roadside bombs and sniper attacks as they struggle to evacuate the wounded. This is the reality of modern warfare, as brutal as any in the last 3,000 years. Throughout history, men have looked at technology to gain the decisive edge. History also tells us that technology means little without tactics and human judgment. But when all those elements are present, the result can be irresistible. And the armies of the future will depend on that for victory.